2.1, have clear goals. A, prioritize. While you can have virtually anything you want, you can't have everything you want. Life is like a giant smorgasbord with delicious alternatives that you can never hope to taste. Choosing a goal often means rejecting some things you want in order to get other things that you want or need even more. Good morning, everybody. I hope you had a great weekend. It is actually still a public holiday here in Australia, but I know that some of you will not be in Australia and would not have known that it's public holiday. So we're going to do a reading anyway, and I don't mind reading on a public holiday. It is looking like it might be a half day, so it's probably good to be inside and read a book. So let's get started doing some reading together. We are up to 2.1 of Ray Dalio Principles, and I am looking forward to doing some reading for you. Young God, good to see you again. Adam, nice to meet you as well over on Bigo. So let's get into it, and then I'll get back to everybody on Bigo later on. Let's learn and read together. 2.1, have clear goals. A, prioritize. While you can have virtually anything you want, you can't have everything you want. Life is like a giant smorgasbord with delicious alternatives that you can never hope to taste. Choosing a goal often means rejecting some things you want in order to get other things that you want or need even more. Some people fail at this point because before they've even started. Afraid to reject a good alternative for a better one, they try to pursue too many goals at once, achieving few or none of them. Don't get discouraged and don't let yourself be paralyzed by all the choices. You're going to have much more than what you need to be happy. Make your choice and get on with it. This actually reminds me of a story of when I went to a food court for the first time with somebody that I used to be in a relationship with. And we went to this Chinese food court. It was underground. It was called Dixon Street Food Court. And downstairs you had probably about 100 little shops. And each one was only about 2 or 3 square meters. They were tiny. But each one of them had like 100 pictures on the outside with different dishes that they did. Maybe some of them had like 20, 30, 40, but they all had these pictures. And so all you could see was these tiny little holes, and around all of the holes were these pictures, these thousands of pictures of different foods. And I take my ex down there, and she was just completely overwhelmed and had no idea what to do. And so she just stood there and didn't order anything at all. And she said that she was just too overwhelmed. She didn't know where to get started, and that she just really wanted to have a bit of everything. And I told her that it was impossible to have everything, but that we could come back a couple of different times. So I told her to just start by looking at the different shops and seeing which one appealed to her. And then once she had chosen a shop, now she only had about 20 or 30 or 40 choices to make, as opposed to the 1,000 that were down there. And that really helped her. So she went around and she had a look at all the shops, and she decided which shopkeeper she thought looked sympathetic, and she chose that shop. And then now she only had like 20 or 30 choices as opposed to thousands of choices. And it's interesting because we live in the Western world where we have a lot of choice. So if you go to the supermarket, especially if you compare us to, say, for example, Russia back in the 1980s, they didn't have a lot. So when Boris Yeltsin came to visit America, he was amazed and astounded by how much choice there was. And he even made a joke about the fact that even the people in the Communist Party and Mikhail Gorbachev didn't have that much choice. However, there is a downside to having so much choice. When you have too much choice, we end up having more buyer's remorse, because we will buy something, but we know that there were another 20 other choices. And so we buy what we want and we start using it, and we think, oh, this is good, but maybe one of the other choices would have been better. So even if it's not, we will think that maybe one of the other choices would be better. So there is a really big disadvantage to having too much choice. So we need to lower the amount of choices that we have. We need to really focus in on what is important to us. And when we do that, when we have just 1 or 2 or 3 goals, so we could have, for example, 7 goals, 1 health goal, 1 business goal, 1 career goal, we have all of these different areas of life. You can have 1 goal in each, but then you still need to break down the time so that you can get them all done. So you need a certain time in the week when you're going to do exercise. You need a certain time when you're going to eat healthy. You're going to have a certain time when you're going to work on your business. You're going to have a certain time when you're going to be working on all these different things. So reduce the number of things that you're doing, and you will find that it's going to work out a lot better. Wow, so many people joining on Bigo today. It is amazing, and thank you for all the hearts, and I'll get back to you all. We are reading Ray Dalio Principles, and we will continue. We had a lot to talk about just on the first point, which was really exciting. Okay, don't confuse goals with desires. A proper goal is something that you really need to achieve. Desires are things that you want that can prevent you from reaching your goals. Typically, desires are first-order consequences. For example, your goal might be physical fitness, while your desire is to eat good-tasting but unhealthy food. Don't get me wrong. If you want to be a couch potato, that's fine with me. You can pursue whatever goals you want. But if you don't want to be a couch potato, then you better not open that bag of chips. So sometimes our goals have conflicts, and those conflicts can be really, really bad. And I am just seeing if I can, somebody just type something in. Too many choices can lead to analysis paralysis. Yes, I just saw a message on the Zoom that I haven't seen before, but the Bigo, the phone that I'm using for Bigo is actually in front of it. So sometimes our goals and our desires and the things that we do in order to get to the goals are actually conflicting. So for example, if you want to be wealthy, but you think that wealthy people are really bad people, then there's a very big conflict there, because if I become wealthy, then I'm going to be a bad person. So unless you're able to let go of that and say, I want my goal and what I believe to align, but also I want my goals and my desires to align. So you need to get into the habit of saying, okay, this is my goal. How do I get good at and enjoy and want to do the things that I'm doing? So for example, I recently was struggling to get up very, very early. And then I gave my partner my old phone, and my old phone had this old alarm on it. And this alarm was a night ad, and it starts really softly and then builds up, and then it has a really, really loud part. But in the background, there's a voice motivating you, telling you that there's a reason you set your alarm, that you need to get up, and that when you get up, you're going to achieve so much more, and there's all these advantages, and that the really strong and powerful people are going to get up, whereas the people who are not going to achieve their goals are the ones that don't get up. To me, some people might not like it, obviously, but to me, that is really, really motivating. And so that is really something that got me up out of bed. So if I would have kept my old thinking about what kept me back in bed, then no matter how much I set the goal, my desire is stronger. But if I change the desire, if I make my desire wanting to get up early, if I make my desire wanting to have salad instead of something else, did you know that if you eat very, very healthy food for about 2 weeks, your taste buds will start to change, and you'll actually crave for vegetables and fruits and really healthy foods, as opposed to everything else that you might be eating right now. So our taste buds change. The only reason we want to eat the unhealthy food is because our taste buds have gotten used to it. And so it becomes the habit. It becomes the thing that we do. As opposed to when we start eating more healthy, our body remembers our natural impulses, and we'll actually start craving the right foods because we have cleared the palate. We've allowed ourselves to go back to ground zero in order to be able to move forward. So that is something that you can definitely do for your health. For example, the more healthy food you eat, the longer you do it, the more it's going to become normal, but also the more your taste buds will readapt and go back to how they were when you were younger, when you used to crave the healthier foods. Okay, don't confuse goals with desires. Part C. Decide what you really want in life by reconciling your goals and desires. Take passion, for example. Without passion, life would be dull. You wouldn't want to live it. But what's key is what you do with your passion. Do you let it consume you and drive you to irrational acts? Or do you harness it to motivate and drive you while you pursue your real goals? What will ultimately fulfill you are things that feel right at both levels, as both desires and goals. And I think that ties in with what we were just talking about, because when you make the changes, then you go into what you actually believe you want. So if you change your diet, then you are going to start achieving your goals because they're aligned. So you need to have everything aligned. So without passion, life is dull for sure. If you are not excited by something, then of course it's going to be really difficult to get into it. So everything that you do, you need to find a way to make it fun, to make it enjoyable. If you have to go exercising but you don't like exercising, how can you make it fun? How can you make it enjoyable? How can you start with small little steps so that you don't have to jump all in? Because when you jump all in, it's very overwhelming. But when you take it small steps, you might sit in front of the couch and just put on your sneakers. Putting on your sneakers makes you want to walk to the kitchen, makes you want to walk outside and go check if there's any mail. So just those tiny little steps can be extremely motivating. So make sure that you align your goals with your desires. So find a way to turn your desires around so that they actually become things that lead you toward your goals. Don't mistake the trappings of success for success itself. Achievement orientation is important, but people who obsess over a 1,200 pair of shoes or a fancy car are very rarely happy because they don't know what it is that they really want and hence what will satisfy them. Success comes in so many different forms. It is not just the amount of money that you have in the bank. Success can be what brings you joy and happiness. Success can be spending time with the people that you really love. Success can be having really good health. Success can be so many different things. So don't just mistake what other people think success means. If cars and houses and jewelry and all of those things are success for other people, but it doesn't bring you that spark, it brings us back to part C. Reconcile your goals and your desires. If the jewelry and the cars don't do it for you, then find something that does bring you happiness and joy and make sure that you pursue that so that you achieve your success. It doesn't have to be the money. It doesn't have to be the house. It doesn't have to be the cars. Figure out for you what is important. Is it having time freedom and not having to go to work? Is it being able to spend time with family more often? Is it being able to travel the world? Is it being able to do something for a good cause? Is it being able to volunteer your time for a good cause? Whatever it is that sparks your joy, whatever it is that brings you excitement, make sure that that becomes your success rather than whatever everybody else says. And also make sure that you enjoy the journey so that you're not just chasing after it and depressed because you haven't achieved your success. If you're enjoying the journey, then you are already successful rather than just chasing it. And the actual doing part, the actual process is really, really difficult for you and not enjoyable. So make sure you find the things that are enjoyable for you. Part E, never rule out a goal because you think it's unattainable. Be audacious. There is always a best possible path. Your job is to find it and have the courage to follow it. What you think is attainable is just a function of what you know at the moment. Once you start your pursuit, you will learn a lot, especially if you triangulate with others. Paths you never saw before will emerge. Of course, there are some impossibilities or near impossibilities, such as playing center on a professional basketball team if you're short, or running a 4-minute mile at age 70. Of course, yes, there are things that are impossible. For example, digging down all the way through one side of the earth to the other is going to be impossible because you will burn up in the middle. Not to mention the fact that the whole thing might collapse and you will die. There are so many reasons not to dig a hole through the center of the earth all the way through. But when it comes to most things, when it comes to the things that we want to achieve, one, very often somebody else has already achieved it. So we don't really need to worry about whether we can achieve it or not, because if somebody else has, means that there is a way to do it. So it might take different things that we don't have. We might need to find resources, but it definitely means that there is a way. And most people achieve most things by starting from zero. So if they can do it, then you can do it too. But beyond that, there are things that have never been done, that nobody else has done, or that nobody's done in the same way that you would need to do it, but they are still possible. So take, for example, Roger Bannister and the 4-minute mile, called the Miracle Mile, and the 4-minute mile. The interesting thing about that is that it was completely impossible. Everybody said that humans could not run a mile in under 4 minutes. And Roger Bannister knew that he couldn't do it. But what he did is he created a special training, and he would train so that he would run at the speed you would need to run a 4-minute mile. So let's say that you need to run at 20 kilometers per hour to run a 4-minute mile. And he could only run 18 kilometers per hour. So what he would do is he would run for 20 kilometers per hour for as long as he could, until he couldn't do it anymore. Then he would take a 1-minute break, and he would do it again. He would run 20 kilometers per hour for as long as he could. And he would do that for as long as he could keep that up, with a little break in between. And so over time, his body got used to being able to run 20 kilometers per hour over a longer time period. So after a couple of months, he was able to run not just 1 minute for that first time. Maybe now he's able to run 2 minutes before he needs to take his first break. And so over time, he was able to do it. But the really amazing thing about this story is not the fact that he was able to run the mile in less than 4 minutes. It was the fact that within the next 3 months, I think there were 8 other people that also ran a mile in under 4 minutes. So what that means is that he was able to break the barrier in his mind. But as soon as he had broken it, other people also started to believe it was possible, and they started to be able to do it as well. There's another famous story of, I think it was an online selling conference. And this online selling conference, everybody said it was impossible to sell $1 million worth of products based on a certain price, I think it was, in 24 hours. And so people would make $800,000, $900,000 in 24 hours at this conference. And nobody really believed that it was possible to sell more than $1 million. All of a sudden, there was somebody who found a way, and he tweaked a couple of things, changed a couple of things in what he was doing, and he managed to sell $1 million in 24 hours, $1 million worth of product. Now, other people saw that and also started to believe it. And now there are people who sell much more than $1 million in 24 hours. And yet people believed it was impossible, that it would never be able to happen. And yet nowadays it happens quite frequently, even with products that, given inflation, are at a lower price point. It is still possible to sell over $1 million worth of product in under 24 hours. So I absolutely agree that you should never rule anything out. If you think that you can't achieve your goal, look for people who have either done it, or find a strategy that will help you to be able to achieve it, even though nobody else has. And you're going to have to get creative with how you're going to make it happen. So, for example, running in a different way, creating something different with regards to the online structure of your business, so that you can sell over $1 million in 24 hours. Okay, I was really having a lot of fun with that one. That was probably one of my favorite readings up until this point, even. Then again, I also enjoyed the ones where we were looking at the economy and things like that at the very beginning. But that was very, very enjoyable, and I hope you enjoyed it as well. So we're going to leave it there. I will continue with part F, because this section has quite a few parts. And then we will continue with part F. And then tomorrow we'll probably also get to identify and don't tolerate problems. Oh, I like that one. So we'll read that one tomorrow. We should be able to get to that part. If you enjoyed that, feel free to go and watch the recordings of the previous chapters that we've read. I give my commentary for most parts of the book. Yeah, most parts. There's not a lot of parts that I don't give some commentary on. So if you enjoy that, you can go to the Passive Cash Flow Club, which is my YouTube channel, and you can find the recordings of principles. You can find Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And yesterday, very exciting. No, not yesterday, the day before. I went to see a friend of mine who is a videographer, and we did a whole day of video shooting. And all of the questions that you sent through, I think we came up with 14 questions that we have answered, and we're going to start putting those on the YouTube channel as well, so that you can get the answers to your questions. So it might be one of the questions that you asked if you sent a question through on Instagram. So make sure when you're at the Passive Cash Flow Club, watch some replays if you like, but also make sure that you hit the subscribe button, because then if you did ask a question, you'll be notified, and it could be your question, and you'll see that the video pops up with the answer to your question. If you didn't send a question, that's also fine, but make sure you do send some questions, because I'd love to know what kinds of financial freedom, wealth creation, economics questions you have, and I'd love to answer them. But make sure you still subscribe, because it might be a question that comes up that is beneficial to you. So you'll see the notification and you'll go and have a look, and you might think, wow, that is something that I really needed to know the answer to. That was a question that I had that I didn't even know I had the question. So it would be amazing to meet you over at the Passive Cash Flow Club, and I'm looking forward to seeing you there. If you'd like to send a question, or if you'd like to know more about the things that I run in order to be able to help people just like you be able to change your mindset and be able to go out and create some real wealth and some financial freedom and different other things, I'll show you some really amazing things around investing. I have some education and games and different things that we run. So if you'd be interested in, for example, the Cash Flow Club or the simulator that we run, let me know on Instagram as well. You can find me on Instagram at business_team_6_official. I would love to get to know you. I see so many names and people, and I would really love to actually get to know you and have a conversation with you on Instagram. I'm always very happy to take some time out to do that. And I would love to be able to get to know what makes you tick and who you are and what you do, all of those different things. So let me know if you'd be interested in the cash flow and the simulator. Let me know if you'd be interested in learning some things around finance, investing, and financial freedom. And I would also absolutely love to be able to answer more of your questions. So make sure that if you have any questions on finance, economics, wealth creation, all of those different kinds of things, let me know. Investments of different kinds, let me know, and I would love to have a chat to you about it and answer any of your questions. So we're going to leave it at that. I am looking forward to seeing you all again tomorrow, Sydney time, 8 a.m., Sydney, Australia time, 8 a.m. for another reading. I really appreciate you being here. I'm going to stop the recording, but I am going to go to the Bigo and have a look at who joined and say hello to everybody over there. Once again, thank you for joining. Great having you, and I am looking forward to seeing you all again very, very soon.